Decoded.
A, ever stop to think that your amazing tireless heart beats about 100,000 times a day without even asking for a break?
It really is incredible. It just keeps going.
It's like the ultimate endurance machine. And today on Book Decoded, we're diving headfirst into this amazing organ with Dr. Nikki Stamp's fantastic book, Can You Die of a Broken Heart?
A great read. Really makes complex stuff accessible.
We're aiming for, a fun, engaging chat. We want to pull out the key ideas, make some actionable stuff, and just explore the heart without making anyone's head spin.
Sounds good. It's a topic that touches everyone, quite literally.
Totally. So we're going beyond just it's a pump, right? We'll get into how it works, but also how it connects to our feelings, our lifestyle, all that stuff.
Right. The mechanics are fascinating, but so is let's say, the heart's relationship with the rest of us.
Okay, so let's start there. The heart itself. It's easy to just take it for granted, isn't it?
It really is. But Dr. Stamp does a great job explaining it as this blend of, well, simple function pumping blood and incredible biological complexity.
And it wasn't always seen just mechanically, was it? Historically, it was seen as like the center of everything. Emotions, the soul.
Absolutely. That idea is woven deep into our language and culture. Heartfelt, broken heart, brave heart. It all points back to that.
Which makes modern heart surgery even more astonishing. I mean, the book mentions it's only really been around for, 60 years?
Roughly, yes. Open heart surgery, as we know it, is relatively recent in medical history. Before that, intervening directly was extremely limited, almost unthinkable for a long time.
Mind-blowing. It highlights how fast medicine can move sometimes.
It really does.
And Dr. Stamp's own path into this. It wasn't exactly straightforward, was it? Apparently she was more into anatomy books than fairy tales as a kid.
Yeah, the book mentions that.
Yeah.
A bit unusual, perhaps, but it shows that early fascination. Though she explored other things too, didn't she?
Right, like musical theater and accounting seems worlds away from surgery.
It does. But then, during a medical rotation, something clicked with heart surgery.
And she found an old diary entry from grade 3 saying she wanted to be a heart surgeon.
Amazing. Like it was meant to be, in a way.
Okay, so let's get into the basics of this pump. 2 sides doing different jobs.
Exactly. Think of the right side as the collection point for used blood that's delivered its oxygen.
Okay.
It takes that deoxygenated blood and pumps it just next door, basically, to the lungs to pick up fresh oxygen.
Got it. And then that oxygen-rich blood comes back.
To the left side. And the left side is the real powerhouse. It has to pump that oxygenated blood out to the entire rest of the body.
So it needs stronger muscles.
Precisely. The left ventricle, especially, is very thick and muscular to handle that workload.
And this cycle happens, around 70 times a minute? On average?
Yeah, around 70 beats per minute at rest, which adds up to that staggering 100,000 beats per day figure. And the incredible part is, unlike your arm muscles after lifting weights, it doesn't fatigue.
How does it manage that?
It's down to the unique nature of cardiac muscle cells. They're incredibly efficient at using energy and built for constant rhythmic work. Plus, the rate adjusts constantly based on what your body needs.
And here's something that really struck me from the book. The heart doesn't technically need the brain to tell it to beat.
That's correct. The heart has its own internal pacemaker system. The muscle cells themselves can generate electrical signals and contract rhythmically, provided they get enough oxygen and nutrients, of course. The brain modulates the rate, speeds it up or slows it down, but the basic beat originates in the heart.
Fascinating. Okay, which leads us perfectly to the book's title question. Can you actually die of a broken heart? It sounds so dramatic, maybe even metaphorical, but is there science behind it?
This is where things get really interesting, the mind-heart connection. While emotions don't live in the heart muscle, they absolutely affect it, profoundly sometimes.
We've all felt it, right? That physical sensation in your chest,
Yeah.
like an ache when you're sad or tightness with anxiety, maybe even a lightness with joy.
Those aren't just abstract feelings. They trigger real physiological responses. Stress, strong emotions. They release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol.
Ah, stress hormones.
Exactly. And those hormones can directly impact heart rate, blood pressure, blood vessel function.
Dr. Stamp includes a very poignant story, doesn't she? About a man whose partner died after surgery.
Yes, it's a powerful example. He was recovering physically, but his partner was overcome by the emotional shock and stress, illustrating that extreme grief can have devastating physical consequences, especially if there's some underlying vulnerability.
So it's not just a figure of speech, it can be a genuine risk.
It can be. There's a specific condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, often nicknamed broken heart syndrome.
Okay, what is that exactly?
It's a temporary condition, usually triggered by severe emotional or physical stress, like the death of a loved one, intense fear, even sometimes a surprise party, believe it or not. The heart's main pumping chamber, the left ventricle, suddenly weakens and changes shape. The symptoms can mimic a heart attack, chest pain, shortness of breath.
Wow. So the emotional shock directly causes a physical change in the heart muscle.
That's the current understanding, yes. It shows a very direct link between intense emotional states and cardiac function. Thankfully, it's often reversible with medical care.
Okay, but emotions aren't all bad for the heart, surely. What about the positive side? Love, connection.
Absolutely. There's good evidence that positive social connections and feeling loved have beneficial effects on physical health, including the heart.
How does that work? Is it just about reducing stress?
That's a big part of it. Feeling safe and connected can buffer the effects of stress, but it also triggers the release of feel-good hormones.
Like oxytocin, the cuddle hormone.
Exactly. Oxytocin, released during things like hugging or bonding moments, has been linked to lower blood pressure and reduced stress responses, which is good for the heart long term.
The book mentions an interesting point about marriage and recovery after a heart attack, that the benefit seems stronger for men.
Yes, that's a finding from some studies. The reasons aren't entirely clear, but there are theories. It could be that women sometimes take on more caregiving roles, potentially even when they're the ones recovering. Or perhaps heart disease presents differently or is diagnosed later in women sometimes, leading to worse initial severity. It's complex.
And what about our relationship with ourselves? Does self-compassion, that kind of thing, play a role?
It's an area of growing interest. The idea is that being kind to yourself might influence health behaviors. If you practice self-compassion, maybe you're more likely to eat well or exercise out of self-care, rather than punishing yourself if you slip up. It's less about direct physiology, perhaps, and more about motivating healthy choices.
Makes sense. Okay, let's switch gears to lifestyle, the things we can, actively manage day to day. Diet has to be top of the list for heart health.
Absolutely fundamental. What we eat directly impacts things like cholesterol levels and the buildup of plaque in our coronary arteries. That plaque is what narrows the arteries and can lead to heart attacks.
And cholesterol, we hear about good and bad. Can you break that down simply?
Sure. So LDL cholesterol is often called bad because high levels can contribute to that plaque buildup. HDL cholesterol is good because it helps transport cholesterol away from the arteries back to the liver. You generally want lower LDL and higher HDL.
And diet is a huge factor in those levels.
Huge, especially the types of fats we eat and also things like fiber intake.
Right, fats. It's always confusing. Saturated, unsaturated, trans.
It can be. Generally, unsaturated fats found in things like olive oil, avocados, nuts, fish are considered heart healthy. They can help improve cholesterol levels.
Okay. And saturated fats found in meat, butter, coconut oil.
The advice on saturated fats has evolved a bit. Traditional advice was to strictly limit them because they tend to raise LDL cholesterol. While that's still generally true, the picture is maybe more nuanced depending on the food source. However, most guidelines still recommend replacing saturated fats with unsaturated ones where possible. Trans fats, often artificial and found in processed foods, are the ones to definitely avoid. They raise LDL and lower HDL.
What about coconut oil? It gets marketed as healthy sometimes.
Yeah, it's high in saturated fat. While it might raise HDL slightly for some, it also significantly raises LDL for most people. So overall, probably not the heart-healthy champion it's sometimes made out to be. Olive oil is likely a better bet.
Good to know. Now, beyond fats, the book really flags obesity as a major issue.
It's a huge driver of heart disease risk. Obesity is linked to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, all major risk factors for the heart.
And losing weight helps, even a little bit.
Definitely. Even modest weight loss, say 5–10% of body weight, can significantly improve blood pressure, blood sugar control, and cholesterol levels. It makes a real difference.
What about sugar? It seems to be getting more attention lately.
And rightly so. Excessive sugar intake, especially from sugary drinks and processed foods, is increasingly linked to heart disease, potentially independent of its effect on weight. It can contribute to inflammation, high blood pressure, and unhealthy blood fat levels.
Wow. So it's not just about the calories.
Not entirely, no. The way the body processes large amounts of refined sugar seems to have detrimental effects.
And briefly, the gut microbiome. Does our gut health affect our heart?
It's an emerging field, but yes, there appears to be a connection. The bacteria in our gut can influence inflammation, how we metabolize nutrients, and maybe even blood pressure. Diet plays a huge role in shaping our microbiome, so it's another way eating well supports heart health.
Okay, moving from diet to exercise. This seems like a clear win for the heart, right?
Undeniable benefits. Exercise is like medicine for the heart. It strengthens the heart muscle itself, so it can pump more blood with each beat. That's called increasing stroke volume. It makes the heart more efficient.
And it helps blood vessels, too.
Yes, very much so. Exercise encourages the production of nitric oxide, which helps relax blood vessels, improving blood flow and lowering blood pressure. It keeps the arteries flexible.
Is intense exercise always better, like running versus walking?
Higher intensity exercise can provide more benefits in less time, that's true. Things like improving aerobic fitness faster. But the most important thing, as Dr. Stamp emphasizes, is consistency and just moving more. Any activity is better than being sedentary. Walking, swimming, cycling, dancing. It all counts.
What about things like HIIT, high-intensity interval training, or yoga?
Both can be beneficial. HIIT gives you that high-intensity burst, which is great for cardiovascular fitness. Yoga, while often lower intensity, is excellent for flexibility, stress reduction, and can help with blood pressure too. A good mix is often ideal.
Okay, now for the fun stuff, or maybe controversial. Red wine, dark chocolate, coffee. Any truth to the hype?
Yes, the vices, that might be virtues. Let's take red wine. It contains antioxidants like resveratrol. Some studies suggest moderate consumption might be linked to slightly lower heart disease risk, possibly due to effects on blood clotting or nitric oxide.
But the key word is moderate.
Absolutely crucial. Heavy drinking is unambiguously bad for the heart and overall health. If you don't drink, there's no health reason to start. Any potential benefit is small and easily outweighed by risks if you overdo it.
Right. What about dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate, especially the stuff with high cocoa content, like 70% or more, is rich in flavonoids, another type of antioxidant. These might help with blood flow and possibly blood pressure and cholesterol.
So a small square is okay?
A small amount might offer some benefit, but it's also high in calories, fat, and often sugar. So again, moderation is key. It's not a health food you should eat loads of.
Okay. And coffee. The advice seems to swing back and forth.
The consensus now seems to be that for most people, moderate coffee consumption, say, up to 3-4 cups a day, is likely neutral or even slightly beneficial for heart health. It contains antioxidants and might have anti-inflammatory effects.
But probably not if it's loaded with sugar and cream.
Exactly. How you take your coffee matters. Black coffee is very different from a large, sugary, creamy concoction.
And this idea of superfoods in general.
It's mostly marketing, really. While foods like blueberries, salmon, or kale are incredibly nutritious, no single food can magically protect your heart. It's about the overall dietary pattern. Lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, healthy fats. Focus on the pattern, not just individual super ingredients.
Makes sense. Let's talk about mental health and sleep now. We touched on the mind-heart link, but depression seems particularly connected.
Yes, there's a strong, well-established link. It's complex, maybe a bit bidirectional. Having heart disease increases the risk of depression, and having depression increases the risk of developing heart disease and having worse outcomes if you already have it.
Why is that? What's the mechanism?
There are several potential pathways. Depression can involve changes in stress hormones, inflammation, blood clotting, even things like heart rate variability, which is a measure of how well the heart adapts to changing demands. Serotonin levels might also play a role. Plus, depression can lead to unhealthy behaviors. Poor diet, lack of exercise, smoking, which further increase heart risk.
So treating depression is actually part of heart care.
Absolutely. It should be seen as integral, whether through therapy, medication, social support, exercise. Managing depression is crucial for both mental and physical well-being, including heart health.
And social support is important too.
Very much so. Feeling connected, having people to talk to, reduces stress and improves coping, which benefits the heart.
Okay, and sleep. We all know we need it, but how critical is it specifically for the heart?
Incredibly critical. Sleep is when the body does essential repair work. For the heart and blood vessels, it's a time for blood pressure to dip, giving them a rest. Sleep regulates hormones involved in appetite, stress, and insulin sensitivity.
So not enough sleep messes all that up.
Pretty much. Chronic lack of sleep, or poor quality sleep due to conditions like insomnia or sleep apnea, is linked to an increased risk of high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, heart attack, and stroke.
Sleep apnea seems particularly risky.
Yes, obstructive sleep apnea, where breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep, puts significant strain on the heart. Oxygen levels drop, blood pressure surges. It's a major, often undiagnosed risk factor for cardiovascular problems.
So prioritizing sleep isn't just about feeling less tired, it's active heart protection.
Definitely. Aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night is a really important health habit.
Let's talk genetics. If heart disease runs in the family, are you doomed?
Not at all. Dr. Stamp makes this point clearly. Genetics load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Or perhaps more accurately, lifestyle largely determines if the trigger gets pulled.
So genes can make you more susceptible, but don't guarantee you'll get the disease.
Exactly. You might inherit genes that predispose you to high cholesterol or high blood pressure, or make your blood clot more easily. There are also specific, rarer genetic heart muscle diseases like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
The book mentions things like blood type, even height being linked.
Yeah, some fascinating links emerging from large genetic studies. For instance, certain blood types might be associated with slightly different clotting risks. And bizarrely, genes linked to being taller seem slightly correlated with lower cholesterol, though the reasons aren't fully clear. These are usually small effects, though.
And a mother's health during pregnancy can influence the baby's future heart health, too.
Yes, the environment in the womb matters. If the mother has conditions like high cholesterol, diabetes, smokes, or is obese during pregnancy, it can potentially program the baby for increased cardiovascular risk later in life.
But overall, the message is that lifestyle choices are still hugely powerful regardless of your genes.
Hugely powerful. Eating well, exercising, not smoking, managing stress, getting enough sleep, these things can significantly mitigate genetic risk for many people. You can't change your genes, but you can change your environment and behaviors.
It's empowering in a way. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely. And studies like the Framingham Heart Study, which followed families over generations, are how we learn so much about these risk factors, both genetic and lifestyle.
Okay, wrapping up, let's talk about communication in the future. Why is talking about heart health so important?
Communication on multiple levels. Talking openly with your doctor is crucial, sharing family history, symptoms, lifestyle habits. Getting regular checkups, especially blood pressure checks and cholesterol tests when recommended, is key. The guidelines suggest checks generally starting around age 45 or earlier if you have risk factors. And for women who've had pregnancy complications like preeclampsia, earlier checks are important.
And talking with others, peer support.
Incredibly valuable for people living with heart conditions. Sharing experiences, challenges, successes, it reduces isolation and can provide practical tips and emotional support. Dr. Stamp highlights this too.
And looking ahead, we know surgery has come leaps and bounds, but what's next?
It's a really exciting time. Stem cell research holds promise for potentially regenerating damaged heart muscle after a heart attack, though it's still largely experimental.
Repairing the heart itself.
That's the hope. There's also work on tissue engineering, trying to grow patches of heart tissue, or even whole heart structures, in the lab. Early stages, but imagine the possibilities.
Wow. Anything else?
Gene therapies are advancing. There's research into things like a vaccine approach to lower LDL cholesterol long-term by targeting specific genes in the liver.
A vaccine against high cholesterol.
Sort of, yeah. It's gene therapy delivered in a way that could provide long-lasting effects with infrequent injections. Still in development, but very promising. And wearable tech smartwatches, monitors. They're getting better at detecting irregular heart rhythms like atrial fibrillation early.
So lots of potential breakthroughs. But we still face big challenges.
Definitely. The ongoing epidemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes are major threats. They fuel so much heart disease. So alongside these amazing medical advances, we still need strong public health measures and continued focus on prevention through lifestyle.
It really comes back to that interplay between high-tech medicine and fundamental healthy living.
Exactly. We need both. Individual responsibility and societal efforts, plus continued medical innovation.
Well, this has been fascinating. A real journey inside the heart, thanks to Dr. Stamp's book. As we close out this book-decoded exploration, what are maybe one or two key things you hope listeners take away?
I think, firstly, really internalizing that powerful connection between your mind, your emotions, and your physical heart. Taking care of your mental health is taking care of your heart. And secondly, just the sheer impact of those daily choices. Diet, movement, sleep, they aren't small things. They are the bedrock of long-term heart health, often more powerful than we realize.
Absolutely. Okay, here's a final thought for everyone listening. Reflecting on everything we've talked about today, from stress to sleep to saturated fats. What's maybe one small, concrete change you feel genuinely inspired to explore for your own heart health?
A great question to ponder. It doesn't have to be huge. Small steps add up.
Definitely check out the book, Can You Die of a Broken Heart, by Dr. Nikki Stamp. If you want to dive deeper into any of this, it's packed with more detail and great stories.
Highly recommended.
Mm.
Very engaging read.
Thanks so much for joining us on Book Decoded today. It's been a real pleasure digging into this with you. Until next time, look after those amazing hearts.